Good afternoon, everyone. It is my greatest pleasure to welcome you all to the third edition of the Anglo-ESU Public Speaking Competition. This is an event that we have held since 2020 in order to encourage and showcase the young Mexican talent of this country. We are so pleased to have so many talented individuals with us today. This competition represents also a great opportunity for our young people to develop their skills in public speaking and allow them to share their ideas and thoughts with others, which is an essential part of being an effective communicator. Now, we're honored to present Jimena Lara, our Chief Culture and Social Impact Officer, to give us a few words. Welcome, Jimena.
Good morning, good afternoon actually, everyone. Dear participants, parents, adjudicators, it is our real pleasure to welcome you to the Anglo Arts Center here at the Anglo-Mexican Foundation to the third edition of the Anglo-ESU Public Speaking Competition. Today we would like to dedicate this final session to a very special gentleman, Mr. Richard Atherton. Richard had a profound impact in helping young people in Mexico to improve their speaking skills and cross-cultural understanding by learning and engaging deeply with the English language. We will always be grateful for his incredible work, along with his loving wife, Vivian Oakley, in establishing the Mexico chapter of the English-Speaking Union and leading it for many years, as well as the World Schools Debate Competition. Richard and Vivian performed what was truly a labor of love, and their dedication had many positive results. Besides his 40-year career in insurance brokerage and serving as president of Club Reforma and the British Chamber of Commerce, Richard was very close to our foundation as he served as president of our board of directors. He was active in many other philanthropic causes, such as the ABC Medical Center, where he served as a member of the board and leader of the Finance Committee. In the year 2000, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II decorated him as an officer of the British Empire for his services to the Crown. He was a generous man, always helpful, courteous, and a pleasure to deal with. He was deeply committed to Mexico and the British community in our country, and he leaves an indelible mark on all of us who were lucky enough to collaborate with him. At the Anglo-Mexican Foundation, we're honored to have the opportunity to continue his legacy. We're proud to announce that from this year on, the Foundation will officially represent the Mexico chapter of the ESU, a transition that Richard himself generously facilitated last year. We were honored to have David, his son, and Tere, his daughter-in-law, joining us today as adjudicators for this special occasion. We will do our best to honor his legacy, and we're sure he is happily watching us all from where he is now. Please help me give a very warm round of applause to Richard and Vivian. And without further ado, let's begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimena. So, before we begin, I would like to take this opportunity to thank those who have contributed to make this event possible. On behalf of the Anglo Arts team, we would like to thank everyone at the Anglo-Mexican Foundation for helping us make this project a reality. We would also like to thank all the judges from Mexico, Ecuador, Peru, and even Spain who have generously given their time and expertise, and a special thanks to our friends from Asociación Mexicana de Debate for also helping us make this happen. Of course, I would like to thank all the competitors for their hard work and dedication in preparing for this event, and their families that have always supported and encouraged them. And now, I would like to introduce our adjudicators for this category. Let's begin with, thank you, from Asociación Mexicana de Debate, Benjamín Vigueres. Maria del Carmen, she is the Anglo director. And Iliana Franco is the director of international exams in Puerto Rico. Thank you, adjudicators. Now, our adjudicators do not have an easy task, since this year has been our biggest competition yet, with over 140 participants from 30 schools and 5 universities. Our participants come from 30 cities from our country, and we even had a Mexican participant from abroad. Today, we have our top 7 participants of category A. Now, For all of you who are joining us for the first time, let me explain how the competition works. Our participants previously wrote and delivered a 5-minute speech in the preliminary stages of the competition. The title and content of the speeches are related to the theme of the competition. They interpret the theme in any way they want, and today, after 2 weeks of hard work, they will present their speech at this grand final. After they deliver their speech, our adjudicators will ask them 2 questions, and finally, they will be graded on the following rubrics: expression and delivery, reasoning and analysis, organization and prioritization, and listening and response. The theme for this category was "You don't get a second chance to make a first good impression." Let's welcome the first competitor from category A, Ana Victoria, with the title of her speech, "Can a second impression become a first one?" Ana Victoria, please. So I'm going to repeat that once again. Can a second impression become a first one? This is Ana Victoria, and there we go. You can start.
To never judge a book by its cover clearly advises us to not base a belief about something regarding its first impression. However, sociological research states that within the first 2 to 7 minutes of meeting someone, we base our opinion on that certain person regarding their charisma, actions, and even their looks. Essentially, judging is a natural instinct of ours, and we constantly assess everything, even the most insignificant occurrences. So, one could safely say that first impressions are crucial and form part of the idea of ourselves and our personalities from the perspective of others. But are first impressions really that important? Naturally, during a job interview, you are to be prepared in order to surprise the interviewer. However, despite how good of a first impression you have, your numbers are low, and in reality, the company is actually looking for someone who is hardworking and consistent, apart from honest. But even outside the workplace, other formal interviews, even university interviews, have shown that first impressions aren't the key to unlocking someone's character. Of course, you should try and make a best first impression, but to tell you the truth, the second impression also counts, because second impressions can change everything, even the considered perspective of a person or object. Take as an example, a broccoli. I'm sure that when some of us were young, the first impression of broccoli threw us off with its color and its shape. But with the second impression of broccoli, when we actually tasted it, some of us were shocked at its rich flavors. Now, if you still are like President Bush Sr., a well-known broccoli skeptic, I do recommend on giving it another try. To put it another way, have you ever had a friend that used to be your worst enemy, or at least someone whom you didn't really converse with, and is now the person that you desire to see the most? This indicates that second impressions are helpful to recognize the reality of a situation. And it works the other way around. Take my word. I was once fooled by a first impression of a so-called friend and ended up being manipulated and controlled. Believe it or not, first impressions are demanding, especially of people. I meet new people every week or so, and I will have to work the time I can allocate to assess others, because I have so many things to do. And as a normal person, I'm not perfect. Nor am I in perfect shape every single day to meet a new person. Being prepared to meet new people is an opportunity that everyone should take in the best possible approach. Yet, emotions can play a big role in the course of the day and alter your actions in many ways. These teenage mood swings can happen when you least expect them. As socializing and assessing others, emotions are also things we can't avoid. So says the American Association of Psychology. Our personalities are sometimes hard to control, thus distorting your true personality during even a brief conversation with a stranger. Emotions too can risk something weightier than just a conversation. Take students during their college application process. During the interview, they must be stressed and nervous, and that might affect their first impression, despite having the best GPA of their class. Wouldn't they deserve a second chance after all that hard work? To never be able to develop your first impression is a very unfair statement, especially if it's addressed to every single person in the world. If people are allowed second chances in life, Why can't they get second chances and first impressions? Life is something much more meaningful than a first impression, and certainly, a first impression of 2 to 7 minutes is not as meaningful as a 36-year-old friendship or even a 46-year-old marriage. Psychologist Nick Morgan claims that leadership is improved by the refreshment of acquaintances. This PhD candidate has also claimed that our minds are both fast at absorbing information, yet dumb at reviewing it. For instance, he asserts, we make literal connections between physical states and mental states. If you give us a hot cup of coffee to hold, we feel more warmly towards the next person we meet, meaning that the way we feel when we are being introduced to someone new can also affect their first impression from our point of view. Now, I respectfully request you to think back to a few minutes ago. That first almost instant positive impression which you made about me was absolutely correct. This speech was definitely worthy of a fine first impression. Thank you.
Okay, so we would like to have questions from the adjudication, please. Thank you, Mari Carmen.
Thank you very much. Ana Victoria, what's your opinion about people who fake a first impression, who behave as they would like to be perceived rather than who they are?
Well, I think that people who fake, how they are in front of others is not really being true to yourself, because, when you want to make friends, you want them to like you for who you are, not for who you are trying to be. And I think that's really important, because at the end of it all, you're gonna continue being the person that you are. I mean, you're not gonna, if you are very shy, you're not gonna be totally just confident out of nowhere, So I think that it's very important to show yourself, even if you still don't feel confident with who you are, but still show yourself, because you don't know how many people would actually try to be a part of your life and engage with you.
Thank you, Ana Victoria. And we have another question. Thank you, Liana.
I can never
You
get
can
the
just pull
microphone
it.
up. Okay. Is this on? Yes?
We have battery issues.
Okay. There we go. Okay. So now that social media is so present, and everybody has their lingo, or anybody who wants to find a job would have a LinkedIn profile. How can you overcome, or how do you think someone could overcome a bad first impression given in social media, particularly when you're looking for a job?
Well, I think social media can really impact the way that people see you. And if it's in a negative way, it's, it would have partly to do for you to, restart again, address how you acted before, and then try to show that you're actually, a good person, and that you do good things for everyone. And I think that, well, especially when it comes to social media, it is really hard, because there's a lot of people involved, and that can really affect the way that they portray you, because everybody has different personalities. But I think that if you really try and address the situation correctly and amiably just allow yourself to speak your thoughts and the way that you are, I think people could, give you another chance when it comes to your first impression.
Thank you, Ana Victoria. So can you please go to your interview? Let's give a clap. Now we're going to continue with Carmen. Carmen, is the future of us. So once again, Carmen's title is The Picture of Us.
Every one of us is a blank canvas, painted over and over and over again. Yet, somehow, all this paint disappears and we are blank. Once again, picture this. Every new person we meet is a painter. We are that canvas that is waiting to be painted. First impressions will be the first brushstroke of the piece of art that we will become. Nevertheless, this first brushstroke can be covered by more paint, or it can blend harmoniously with the rest of the piece of art. No matter which option the painter chooses, it always belongs to the artwork we are. When we meet someone, this person will not have the faintest idea about what to paint about us. However, when we create a first impression, we fill them with ideas on how to continue painting the canvas we are. Therefore, we need to be careful regarding what kind of piece of art we want to be for them. Everyone knows who Van Gogh is, right? Dear adjudicators, please picture for me his most famous painting, The Starry Night, in your minds. Do you think that The Starry Night will have the same impact on people that it does if it didn't have the stars painted in such a striking way? The pieces of art have their own details and characteristics that makes them a masterpiece. That is the same with people. We each have a detail or characteristic added to us that defines other people's perspective on us. When we meet someone, we'll let them influence our lives as we get to know them. We are a result of the people that surround us. As human beings, we will be constantly changing as a part of our nature. However, even if we change and are a completely different person than the one we were a long time ago, we will never lose a part of our essence. We can put many layers on top of this first brushstroke, but it will always stay there and be a part of us. Did you know that the Mona Lisa, one of the greatest masterpieces of all times, is considered as an unfinished painting? According to The Guardian, Leonardo da Vinci was never able to finish it because his right hand paralyzed. However, to this he said that art is never finished, only abandoned. We are the same as the Mona Lisa. We are work in progress, striving to be masterpieces, but we are also finished pieces in constant perfection. The pieces of art can always be continued. Each of them lack of something and always will. It can be from a drop of paint like Pollock's paintings to a new color schemes like the ones from Mondrian. Every little detail will complement the painting more and more. Every tear, every dream, every laugh, every fall, each memory, big or small, will be a stroke of paint that will complete itself. A painting has a deeper meaning than the one we get to know as the audience. We eventually see the final result of a long and constant progress. There are different perspectives that change the essence of an artwork. The painter, the viewer, and the inspiration for the painting. Each mind works in a different way. Just as the inspiration for the painting can change, so can the painter and the viewer. Their perspectives will change with time. Every one of us is a Van Gogh, a Monet, a Picasso, a Chagall. We don't need someone to define what to paint on us. We must be the ones who give the first brushstroke so that others continue painting the canvas we are, knowing who we are and how we show ourselves to the world. That's it.
Do we have questions from the adjudicators?
Thank you very much, Carmen. Do you think that we show ourselves differently to different people consciously?
For sure we do, because we have different relationships with different people. That is that whenever I meet someone, it won't be the same relationship as if I met someone who I'm gonna work with or with a new friend. It is because the fact that how we want to show ourselves to others is that we will influence our first impression.
Thank you, Carmen. And we have another, yes, Siliana.
Yes, Carmen, you talk about this first stroke, the first creation of ourselves. Do you think there is an age where that stroke makes a different sense or a perfect sense?
For sure it does, because whenever we meet someone, this person will have a first impression of us, but with time, when they get to know us, this first broad stroke can be seen in a different way or in the same way. It just depends as we evolve as humans.
Let's give a clap to Carmen. Thank you, Carmen. And now we're going to continue with Ella. Ella, the title of her speech is Smile and Conquer. So we are welcoming Ella with Smile and Conquer.
Hi, my name is Ella and I'm a bashful person. And yes, and I do in fact mean bashful as in shy. What's your first impression of me? If you Google how to make a good first impression, the only thing that in all websites says, it says to smile. It's an attractive feature. It will convey warmth, kindness, and empathy. And always, always shows confidence. Now, I'm a shy person, and I only have a 7-second window to make a good first impression. Yet I smiled, and I acted confident, and I'm here talking. But my best friend thought that we were never going to be friends the first time we met. She thought that she was a nerd. She thought that I was a nerd. She thought that we weren't compatible. As time goes by, all my best friend could think about me is that I was not compatible with her. Yet we are best friends now. Because her first impression is what she thought by my physical appearance. Because yes, I was wearing a Star Wars t-shirt, 2 little pigtails, and I was not 10 years old, I was 6. We were 6 years old, and the only thing that she could think was that my physical appearance was not good enough for her, and that what I did was not good enough to be complimented by her. So every time I made a good first impression, I heard my dad's voice told me to smile and I will conquer people's hearts. Because my smile will convey warmth, kindness, and empathy. My dad thought that. I think that. Yet I smiled at every person in that room, and I smiled at many people that were meeting me. And the only thing that I could think of is that I was not good enough. That my smile was blinded by anger and by sadness, and it was what I gave everyone because it was they told me to give. But a smile cannot always convey warmth, kindness, and empathy. And a good impression cannot always say that you're a kind person. Because I now can say that I'm a good first impression. I make good first impressions because I smile and I act confident and I talk in front of people. Yet, I know that I'm a bashful person. Because my dad, when I was little, he told me how I was going to make something great with my life. And the only thing I could think of is that I was not good enough for my best friend. Now, that changed. After a while, you don't get a second chance to making good first impressions because you don't make a good first impression. And my best friend changed, and she actually knew me, and she actually portrayed herself as someone that can actually love me, and I loved her back. Yet smile and conquer did not always work for me. When I got to high school, only thing I could do was act like I was something that I was not, because I was not confident with myself. Yet when people started to know me, when people started to know who I am, what I am, when people started to say that, to notice that, I make good first impressions. Because yes, you do in fact get a second chance in making a good first impression. Because first impressions are not about the first time that you meet, are the first part that you show of yourself. And I believe first impressions should not matter. I believe first impressions should be something that we all take account of, that we all know that it's important, but that we do not take care. We do not have to nourish a first impression because we have second chances. They are incomplete. They are just good and positive or bad and negative aspects of a person. They are not what you are. They are what you assume of a person. Yet, smile and conquer will always get you a good first impression. Because I know that my smile and your part of you, the part of you that actually conveys kindness and warmth and empathy, that part of you will conquer people's hearts.
Thank you, Ella. And now do we have questions from the educators?
Thank you for your speech. What do you think about people that intentionally make a good first impression, not trying to be kind, in a sense of protecting themselves?
Okay, thank you for your question. I believe people make a lot of effort at making someone think what you want to be. And I believe that's something really important in first impressions. But people who actually protect themselves, I believe they are just hurt. And we are all hurt in some ways, but some people are more hurt than others. And I believe that protecting yourself from people that you don't know is something that is causing you so much anxiety that you cannot portray yourself as someone that you are. So yes, I do think that people do that. And I also think that people can do that and be a kind person. So it couldn't matter the first impression that you have on them, because they are also having a first impression of you that is bad.
Thank you. Do we have another question?
Ella, would you say that smiling, although you may be terribly sad or confounded, is correct? Would it not be hypocritical if you're not feeling happy?
When I was in 2020, in the quarantine, I made a poem. It says, I used to think that being happy was smiling a lot. So I'd smile at the sea, I'd smile at the sky, I'd smile at strangers in the street. I'd smile at the stars at night, at my friends and my family. And I would hide all my anger and pain behind that smile for them to never see light. That is my poem. And I believe happiness does not come from a smile. And I believe you can smile, and that will be a bit hypocritical. But also, it's just a way of protecting ourselves.
Thank you, Ella. We are going to continue now with Emiliano. Emiliano's speech is titled First Impressions and How to Get Around Them. So, Emiliano, welcome. And I'm going to repeat again, Emiliano, first impressions and how to get around them.
From the moment we meet someone, and until we truly get to know them, our subconscious has the same opinion about them. Let that sink in. I've only spoken 2 sentences, and I can already be confident that you have some sort of opinion on me. These opinions are called first impressions. But what are these anyway? First impressions are crucial for how human beings perceive their surroundings. These are based on anchoring, which according to Harvard is the cognitive bias that makes humans rely too heavily on the first piece of information offered when making a decision. In our search to understand everything, humans are quick to make a mental image of anything new. First impressions can be understood as a sort of anchor for what a human being has to offer, from the way we dress, to how we talk, to our posture, to all the way to how we treat others and ourselves. Everything works together to create a first impression. So, if I make a bad first impression, am I forever stuck as the guy who picks his nose? Well, yes and no. You see, first impressions can't change. They are forever. But that doesn't mean that opinions over time don't change. I like to refer to this as the first impression barrier. The point where you get to know a person enough that a first impression is completely overshadowed by a greater understanding of. For example, when I first met my best friend, they thought I was weird and awkward because I didn't introduce myself properly, and because I didn't talk much that first time. They thought I was an introvert, that I was shy, that I was awkward, I was weird. But as they got to know me better, they realized that I just take time to warm up to people, and that I can actually be quite extroverted. Him getting over that first impression barrier made his opinion of me go from a worse one to a better one. So, how do we jump over these first impression barrier? There are two factors that affect this. One, simply put, is the time you spend with someone. And the second one is maturity. I'm not talking about the maturity of the person who's making the first impression, the person who's presenting themselves. I'm talking about the maturity of the person who is creating the mental image in their mind. As Lao Tzu once said, care about what other people think and you'll always be their prisoner. We simply can't live life scared because of the pressure of always making a good first impression. Because we simply can't always make a good first impression. Not everyone can always like us. But look at the other side of the coin. Just as you are boxed into first impression by others, others are boxed into a first impression by you. When I first met my best friend, I also made some misjudgments about them. I thought they were hollow because they wouldn't stop running their mouth, and the fact that they only talked about sports, I thought they're jock, nothing else. But as I got to know them better, I realized that we had a lot of common interests, like we had the same music interest, and we had the same humor. In my rush to get to know him, I had stereotyped him without realizing. Hence both the importance and the danger of first impressions, and also the need to get over this first impression barrier. The bottom line is this. First impressions can't change, but general opinions can change, and they often do. We as individuals don't really get the chance to change the first impressions others have of us, but we definitely get the chance to change the opinions we have of others. And apart from spending time getting to know people, the only way to do that is by being more mature, by changing the way we view people, by changing our lens. Next time you meet someone, I urge you to reevaluate how you're judging them. Next time your friend presents you with someone new, try to notice all the things you're picking up about them. Are you being open-minded, or are you shunning them aside the moment they say something you don't quite agree with? Are you making assumptions about the reasons they dress, speak, or act the way they do? Are you playing into stereotypes when deciding whether you like a person or not? At the end of the day, first impressions are impossible to change. And it is very hard to change the mental image others have of you. But it is not that hard for us to change the opinions we have of others. And the beauty of it is that you'll likely find that as you start jumping more and more over this first impression barriers, by becoming more mature, by becoming more open-minded, by changing the way you view people, by spending more time with them and clearing up those misconceptions, you'll likely find that they'll start to change their opinion about you. In this world, you get back what you put in. And for others to start accepting you, you need to start accepting others. Thank you.
Thank you, Emiliano. Do we have questions for Emiliano, the educators? Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much for your speech. So here you're basically saying that first impressions depend on the eye of the beholder. What about when you're getting a fake first impression? And how can you keep your maturity?
Well, when you realize that someone has made a first impression of you, a fake first impression on you, well, you have to quickly go, oh, they're not going to be that reliable, right? So that maturity is also a type of self-defense mechanism for, well, people who are going to be lying. But there's also the other side. There's the people that lie because they feel scared, and they lie because they don't feel comfortable with themselves. And we have to be able to notice that and be able to accept the people that maybe they made a first impression that initially they lied to you, but it was because they tried to be cool with you or nice. And we just have to learn to sometimes accept the people that have lied to us. Not all the time, but when it was because they were scared, sometimes it's okay.
Thank you very much.
Do we have another question?
What would you say is the most important feature for building strong second impressions?
Well, in my speech, I talked mostly about maturity and getting to know people, spending time with them. We can't really change the maturity of the other person, but we can definitely just spend more time with them. If I was to spend I was to eat lunch with any of you right now, your opinion of me would probably change because I probably wouldn't be talking so poised. I would probably be more relaxed. So definitely just try to spend more time with people if you think that your first impression wasn't that good, and give them more evidence of who you truly are as a person.
Thank you, Emiliano. Now we're going to continue with Isabella. Isabella's speech is titled More Than Just a Stranger's Opinion. So again, Isabella with More Than Just a Stranger's Opinion. Welcome, Isabella.
Hello, I'm Isabella, and today I'll be talking to you about first impressions. Foremost, I want to thank you for lending me your time and letting me speak my mind about first impressions. I come here not only to share my personal opinions, but as well to change the idea that you may or may not have about them. Honestly, I have mixed feelings about first impressions. I based not only my worth as a person, but as well as an artist on what people assumed of me by only hearing me play a piece of no more than just 5 minutes. The need to make everyone believe that I was perfect right from the start only made me end up believing that if I didn't live to the expectations of complete strangers, then I wasn't good enough. I've been performing since I was 5. I basically grew up on the stage. And surrounded by the people that I love the most, I've lived and learned many things that have formed me as a person. And some of them, well, most of them, have a lot to do with first impressions and how it's believed that you don't get a second chance to make one. In the performing arts, you are taught that once you start performing, there is no going back. No starting over, no second chances, especially no take-backs. In an artist's minds, once you start performing, that presentation will define everything. From the first note that you played, or the first verse you sang, even the first movement that you executed, will lead people and yourself to build an idea of who you are as an artist. Sometimes it even feels as if this idea defines you as a person. And it's not that it doesn't work that way. Of course, once you start performing, you can't go back in time and change what you did or didn't do. But what you can't do is focus on what you did wrong. You have to make it work. Instead of dreading that little mistake, learn from it. Do better. As an artist, and human beings in general, we need to understand that the first impression given doesn't define us. Because in the end, we can make people look past that first impression. Mostly because we are more than just a first impression. Like, don't define your worth from the idea that complete strangers have created about you. Because in the end, you are not the opinion of someone who doesn't know you or care about you. And honestly, I think that we cannot let, yes. Like, research from NYU suggests that within the first 7 seconds of meeting someone, you already assume 11 major things about them. And like in the 1/10 of a second, you already think that you know the value of an entire human being. It seems kind of outrageous. You don't even know a person's complete name within the first 7 seconds, yet you already assume their entire value as a human being. As an artist, you haven't walked through halfway through the stage in the first 7 seconds, yet people think that they already know everything about you. It seems kind of unfair, to be honest. Us humans are way too quick to judge. Therefore, we have a tendency to not look past first impressions. Second chances aren't nowhere in sight once you already have given a definite judgment of sorts. And like, just between us, I am no stranger to judging too quickly. Last July, I performed a harp sonata as my graduation piece. At first, I absolutely despised the composition. Like, no hate towards the artist, but I convinced everyone that it was the most awful written piece like ever. Like, I absolutely hate it. Now that I look back and can actually play this piece, I realized that it wasn't that I had hated the piece. I hated that I couldn't play it the way I wanted to play it. I let my biased ideas, but most importantly, my first impression, define for months the opinion of a piece that in the end, I actually love and cherish with everything that I am. After that incident, I realized that we will never truly appreciate art or anything at all if we let ourselves be guided by our condemning ideas and biased selves. And like, I am by no means saying that you need to ignore first impressions. In the end, some of them do help us do not act oblivious of the situation. But I beg you, please don't let them define everything. Open your minds towards new things. Look past those 7 seconds. Listen for the song for a little bit longer. Observe that painting for more than just a brief moment. Get to know people instead of assuming their entire life story. Don't let the idea that you have from anyone, even yourself, blind you from knowing more. So yes, maybe we don't get a second chance to give a first impressions, but we do get millions of opportunities to look past those first impressions. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, do we have questions for Isabella? Thank you, María Carmen.
Yes, Angie. Thank you, Isabella. How do you relate first impressions with self-confidence?
I think that first impressions do have a big part of self-confidence because we are constantly thinking about what people expect from us. So if you think that, oh no, people are going to hate me from the first impression that you give, of course your self-confidence is going to be on the floor. But we need to realize that, as I said, that you can look past those first impressions, so we cannot base who we are and our value as human beings from only seeing someone try. We need to understand that first impressions, yes, they play a big part, but we cannot put our worth as human beings only in that first impressions. We need to realize that we are more than just that, and need to hold our value for everything that we are, not only the first impression given.
Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have another question?
As an artist and an actress, how do you overcome now, after what you've learned from these examples that you just gave us, how do you overcome your first impressions of something that maybe is not that attractive when you first approach it?
What I do now is understand that things are more than just what you see, and that if you look deeper into these things, you are going to find something that you love. As for example, with the pieces that I play in the harp, at first sometimes I kind of hate them. For example, now I'm playing the Waltz of the Flowers, and at first I didn't actually like the piece because like my sister's a ballerina and I heard it like over and over again. But now that I played it and can actually like connect with the art, I understand that like I need to get more deep into things and like to actually look into them rather than just like start judging them like from the only thing that I know of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. We are going to continue now with Natalia. Natalia's speech is Peace in a Pod. So once again, Natalia with Peace in a Pod.
I just walked in the room. My chin was up, my face looked like a nervous wreck, and I'm wearing a floral shirt. First impression of the speech? Cool, nice, absolutely atrocious. But I'd rather you tell me. I've been thinking about this, how to present me and my life, and maybe how to get this speech right. So next time you see me, you'll remember this exact face. I've had bad experiences with first impressions. No matter how I start, I always end up in the same place, outcasted in a corner. So I could come here and lie, say I've been living in Mexico my whole life, and not have you asking me, how do you say this in Brazilian? Dude, it's called Portuguese. And then have me wondering, what in the world am I gonna say? Because it's just straight up boring to say, Oi, meu nome é Natalia, and if you speak a second language, you can relate. It's like peas in a pod, but one is painted with colors of a different life. Let me break the news for you. Everyone's different. No one has the same experience, emotions, backgrounds, parents, or to begin with, faces, unless you're twins or something. But life and the universe has a different path for everyone. These little paths are like a construction site, block by block, marking moments in your life. In it is a metal structure, something you can't change, like your biological parents or your appearance, for the most part. Big blocks marking your trauma or your most prized events. Small blocks for things you might not even remember anymore. And of course, your average block for the day-to-day basis. Other buildings might come by and leave you a few bricks, and the behavior towards you, good or bad, will always be there. Stuff happens, and as the adults and emotionally unstable teenagers say, life is hard, get used to it. But like anything in life, your past makes your future. Oprah Winfrey wrote a book titled What Happened to You, where she shared her struggles and her trauma and her family issues. In an interview, she mentioned, most of the struggle I endured as a child resulted in many relationships, interactions, and decisions in my life. It took decades of work and conversations to heal and break those cycles and make peace with my past. This just goes to show on how much people's opinions and behavior towards you affect your future impressions and your future interactions. Being comfortable in your own skin is the best thing you can possibly do. I mean, you have to put up with yourself 24/7, 365, and I may be a very annoying person to have inside my own mind. But I shouldn't have to believe that I want to be someone else. And even if everyone's different, do you ever have a feeling like you're the odd one out? Then imagine how Ruby Briggs must have felt when she became the first African-American student to integrate in an all-white elementary school. It was great she got in, but her classmates were in a toxic environment their whole life where they were just taught that black people were just wrong. They could have been mean to her. And it's hard to change these ideology bricks inside somebody's mind, especially when they're becoming an unchangeable metal structure. So how about we start embracing people and their identities? And we stop depending, and we stop depending on these first and second impressions. This isn't just about culture, it's also about fitting in a box, like a coat of paint hiding all these little bricks inside. Your identity, your personality. Just because it doesn't fit with the blue-eyed, straight-haired girls. So let's start embracing people, their identities, and their personalities. So we stop living in a world and we stop pretending to be someone else through first impressions, second impressions, third impressions, and instead of knowing a person, we only have an idea of them. And then we avoid ourselves and stop living in a void and a vicious cycle full of impressions. So in conclusion, let's celebrate our fights, flights, wins, and losses. Share a piece of us, our culture, and our hearts. Let people see the good inside us and all the little quirks, our experiences, and what has gone through our minds. We make real friends who appreciate us, brick by brick. We also stop living in a void full of impressions, where I'm so worried that I'm gonna make a bad impression towards you and I act like somebody else. In a job interview, you wouldn't want me for being this idealistic person that I'm not. You want me for being myself and my qualities. When we start living in a world where our past bullies won't affect us anymore, and we share a piece of us, our culture, and our hearts, and we embrace each other's and each and everyone's nationality and their quirks. And with that, maybe, I won't eat my homemade brigadeiros alone.
Thank you, Natalia. Do we have questions from the educators to Natalia?
Natalia, how would you teach or train people in what you're saying? Is it realistic to actually think that we will have this approach of not judging and not creating these bricks? And what would you do?
Of course, it's gonna be a lot hard because we're still stuck in a world where we do think that we have to present ourselves in a certain way to impress other people. So this approach isn't something that's gonna happen instantly. But maybe if we start normalizing people's different nationalities, their different identities, the different pints of themselves, and instead of seeing someone as having, for example, for being a nerd and really interested in a topic, as being a good quirk because they're actually passionate about something, looking something in a good point of view instead of seeing these negative parts in people. And this is definitely something that we need to start teaching the younger generation, so when I come here, I won't have to complain about all those people who wronged me for being from a different place.
Thank you, Natalia. Do we have another question? Thank you, Benjamin.
Do you believe in your own experience that coming from a multicultural background has helped you with what do you want to show people in different contexts, or do you believe that first impressions are more unconscious?
Can you rephrase that?
Yes. Do you believe you have control of what you show with your first impressions, or do you believe that those are things that are just shown regardless of your intentions?
Okay, I think that people are gonna have their own opinion on you regardless of how you present yourself, but you can definitely do your best bet in presenting yourself towards other people. And I'm not gonna be open at the first second as I present myself to a person and say, hey, I'm Brazilian, but it definitely depends on like the context of the situation. And that person may take it good or bad, and I, as a person, shouldn't care if they find this as a good attribute or a negative attribute.
Thank you, Natalia. And we're going to continue with Sabrina. Sabrina's speech is titled, The Importance of a First Impression. I'm going to say that again. Sabrina with The Importance of a First Impression.
Okay, I want you to think about 3 people in your life. Do you remember how you met them? I'm sure that the answer for most of you is a yes. That shows that the first impression is something that sticks in our minds. It is that smile, or that laugh, or that comment about a series you both like that made you feel that click, that made you want to get to know them. This only happens once. As Cynthia Ozick said, 2 things remain irretrievable: time and a first impression. I like to divide its importance in 3 groups: judgment, compatibility, and perception. Judgment is a part of most people's daily lives. When you walk down the street, see someone and your mind goes, oh my God, I love their outfit. Or, gosh, I hate that piercing. We make an almost automatic scan of the person and create our own conclusion. At the beginning, we look for superficial stuff, such as their clothing, posture, or how they talk. Then, if we get to interact with them, our attention goes to other things, such as their approach, their manners, and confidence. This tool usually helps us prevent from adding people who won't be a good sum to us. But on the other hand, judging someone by the small bits you get to know when you have this first interaction is really risky, because you have to know who you are talking about to have an opinion. So, if you do this without having enough information, you will most probably fill in the parts you don't know with assumptions, which are not necessarily real. In the end, it's just your imagination trying to get solved the questions that haven't been answered. Let me give you an example. Gossip. Most times you don't even know who you are talking about. You assume who they are. Now, compatibility is the simplest way to explain it. In jobs, this is the reason why interviews exist. To get this first impact from you with those strategic questions and analyze if you would be a match for the job or not. Even though it has a more objective purpose, it will still be based on those bits of yourself others can catch in just a few times of meeting you. Or it may be for a merely personal reason. I remember that I met my best friend because of a story in which I hated the way she acted. I assumed she was a bad person. Then I got assigned to the same classroom as her, we started talking. Most of the assumptions I made were wrong. My first idea of her wasn't right. Then I met my boy best friend, who has always been so transparent that it was easy to know that the first impact was accurate with who he is. I wasn't disappointed. Pay close attention on how in both of the stories the perception I had of them influenced in the speed in which I let them in. A first impression may not be the most important thing in the long term, but it surely affects your decisions at the beginning. Finally, perception. How the way you see things affect the way you treat others. When you get to know someone who acts mean or unkind, the usual response is to return the behavior. Or maybe it happens all the way around. If they act kind, you will return it. Or maybe, even if they act friendly, the perception you've gotten on how you want to treat them won't change. This is why when you meet someone, you've got to be your most genuine self possible. Because if you do, the outcome will surely be the best one for you. If people stay, it is because they will be attracted to you as you are. And if they aren't, they will decide to leave, and that is perfectly okay. In conclusion, a first impression is a human response to the first time you meet someone. You've got to be your most genuine self possible so that the other person may get an accurate version of you. Even if this is full of judgment and what they perceive as best, this tool usually helps us to get an idea of who someone is. But if something is true, as I said before, first impressions may not always be right. This may lead to assumptions which are nothing certain. You can always decide to give someone a second chance, only if you think it's worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Do we have questions from our educators? Thank you, Maria Carmen.
Thanks, Sabrina. How do you fight perception when this is something that is automatic, when you see somebody and you say, I hate that person? How do you fight that so that we begin changing the way we judge people?
Okay, I think in society we're starting to learn to be a little bit more open-minded. But as I said before, judgment is part of most people's daily lives. So I think it's part of this thing I said about getting to know someone only if you think it's worthy. I think most times you are going to have an opinion about someone without even knowing them. And I think it's more about fighting what happens next than what happens at the beginning. Because that's what will affect in the long term.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have another question?
I want to make one, but I just can't
Get the words together.
If you could picture a world without first impression, how do you believe friendships will be built?
Okay, great question actually. I believe that first impressions are something that guide you. Like I said, you get an idea of who someone is, but actually friendships aren't based in an idea. So I think if first impressions didn't exist, maybe it would be more about talking in the first place. Like, it's not just about hearing gossip about someone and guiding yourself from there. I think it would be more about sitting with someone and talking like, hey, what do you like? What do you care about? And from there, you start a friendship. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Serena. All right, so thank you all for all great speeches. Now it is time for the adjudicators to deliberate. We'll be back soon. You can stay here, but adjudicators, can you please join me? Thank you, everybody. Okay, so we are back, and I'm going to ask all the competitors to please join us at the stage. Let's give it a warm clap. Yay! And adjudicators, if you can just also join us in the stage, please. Thank you, adjudicators. Oh, picture time. No worries, we're going to have plenty of picture opportunities. Okay, so in order to give the results, I'm going to invite Benjamin to give us the third prize, or the third place for this category. So, Benjamin.
On behalf of the Asociación Mexicana de Debate, I would like to thank you, the Anglo, and you for amazing speeches. It was a true honor to witness what you can accomplish, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you can do in the future, which I'm sure is going to be full of brightness. Without further ado, the third place of the public speaking competition is Carmen Isabel.
Okay, now for the second place. So the adjudicators had a tough job, and they decided that there wasn't going to be a second place. It's going to be a tie for the first place. Ooh. So I'm going to invite now Ileana to give us the first place.
Thank you. It's been so exciting to be here today and to listen to all of you and to think of your bright future, as was just said briefly a moment ago. It's fantastic. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for Social Impact and the Anglo for letting us be part of this. And
Okay,
you say something, okay?
It's a true honor to be here, guys, and have the opportunity to learn from you today. Thank you. And first place?
By alphabetical order.
Yes.
Emiliano.
And Natalia.
I wasn't expecting that, but now let's take a celebratory photograph to remember this moment for the rest of our life. So adjudicators, if you can also join the competitors. Competitors, can you move a little bit forward? Parents, if you want to take a picture, this is the time. Jimena, can you join us at the stage? Ay, por acá.
of what was right and of the purpose and the pursuit of this event, it just made perfect sense that both were awarded the first prize. Thank you.
So, congratulations, participants. You're still young, but remember that category B is for a prize to London. So we hope to see you here again next year. And as William Faulkner, a famous writer, said, and I quote, "The boys can be one of the props, the pillars to help us endure and prevail. So let us prevail and see each other again next year's edition, next year's edition of the Anglo ESU Public Speaking Competition." Thank you, everybody, and goodbye. And you're receiving a little gift from us. Thank you.